Hey, everyone, and welcome to another edition of 2026's John Talks Indian Cinema. I am your host, the Indian Cine-MANIAC, back with another 15-ish to 20-ish minute review. Hope everyone's having a great new year, early in the year. Looking forward to a big 2026 for the channel. Thanks again for all the support. Greatly appreciated. Let's get right to it, shall we? This was a film recommended by and I love this name, by the way, at All That Jazz 9071. She's recommended a couple of films, and this is one that she recommended called Hindi Medium from 2017. It's directed by Saket Chaudhary. It stars Irrfan Khan, the late Irrfan Khan, the great Irrfan Khan. I've seen him in the Lunchbox, Jurassic World, Haider, and D-Day, amongst others. Sabar Qamar, who I don't believe I've seen in anything. Dashida Sagal, little girl in this who was adorable. Deepak Dobriyal, who I've seen in Sector 36, Bholaa, and Bhediya. Swati Das, who I've never seen, and Amrita Singh, who again I've never seen. Impressive cast, by the way. So this film is basically it's a comedy, it's a satire about the education system in India. And I've seen a few films about this topic. I mean, the first one I ever saw was Three Idiots about the colleges. Obviously, this is a little bit different, but I understand the education system, how important it is in India to get ahead, to be in the caste system, the upper caste, I guess. And it's also which I understand from the movies I watch the importance of being able to speak English. I guess that also dictates where you can go in your career in India. And then finally, it's a look at the caste system. Um, so so let's start with the story. The story, and this is a very funny film. In fact, I think I can say out of all the stuff I've seen Irrfan Khan in, I haven't seen him in a lot. I think this was his. How do I say this? It was the lightest performance. Funny, a little bit goofy, sincere. And he saved, and I think he's a great actor, by the way. I really do. The stuff I've seen him in, I've really been impressed. The Lunchbox was my favorite of his. But until the end of the film, it's really a light comedy. In fact, you could almost say this was almost like a sitcom because the story was kind of like that. The story is a really simple story. Two well-off parents, Raj and Mithu, who doesn't want to be called Mithu, Mida, and their daughter Pia, and they want to get her into one of the five best schools in India, because in the wife's mind, if she doesn't get into this, now this is a running gag throughout the entire film. If the daughter doesn't get into one of these good schools, what happens if she gets depressed and gets hooked on drugs? The wife says that about five times in this film. It's a very funny bit. So it's what lengths will the parents go to get little Pia into one of the best schools? And I think it's the Delhi community. Is that what it was called? That was the top one that they wanted. So the story follows them as he's a very successful. He owns a fashion store, and that the opening scene, once you get past the flashback when they show them young, he's a great salesman, and they show him selling a wedding dress. And he's very well off. They live in a beautiful house. They have a great marriage. They love each other. But the wife really wants the daughter in one of the best schools. And he doesn't really, he wants what's best for the daughter and he wants to please the wife, but he doesn't see why this is so important because him and the daughter have a great relationship. They're really happy. So one of the first things they do is they're going to apply at the school, but you can only go to the school if you live close by. So she makes him move to get in the area to be able to go to the school. That's number one. Now they get rejected from all the schools, but they find out that if you're poor, you get like an exemption where they allow, I think it's 25%, if I remember the number right. 25% of poor kids have to be let in, but you got to prove you're poor. So she convinces him to, well, there's first, like, there's a really funny scene where he goes to the best school and he's got a suitcase full of cash and he's going to bribe the principal, who comes across as a very noble person. You know, that's not going to last. Um, and he's waiting outside in the waiting room, and someone else tried it, and the principal's screaming at the guy who's also holding a duffel bag. So they call his name, Raj, Raj, and he goes, "Who's Raj? Who's Raj?" And then walks out. So he tries all this stuff. So the last thing he's got, he finds out about this. If you apply as a poor person, you have a shot to get in. So he does that, and they rig it so that she will get picked, and he won't have to worry about them following up and everything. Well, the bad guys who arranged for this get busted. So now they're going to investigate all the people who applied for this exemption for poor people. So now the plan is they're going to go live in a place for a month amongst the poor and be poor. And the name of the village was Bharat Nagar. And again, very funny stuff. So they go in, and first thing they do, all the people who live there, who are also poor, are trying to help them, and they're like pushing them off. I don't want your help. I don't want your help. Well, they end up needing their help because they don't know what to do in this. They can't get water. They can't get food. So a couple ends up helping them, and it was he's got a longer name, but his name was Shyam. It's much longer than that though. Um, and by the way, that they move right at the intermission, and then they end up. So the second half, they're in the poor place, and it's how he deals with that. And the thing about his character is he he's a noble character. I have to say this about the characters. The wife was she was not she ends up being she has a redemptive arc at the end of the film, but she's pretty awful for most of the film, trying to get him to do anything to get their daughter in the school, to the point that she gets mad at him because it didn't work. Some of his plans didn't work, and he's trying to figure it out. Like they had a party where they invited all the elites who also go to the school, and at one point they're playing this music, and that's one of the songs, and he's dancing with his daughter, and it's a really cute scene, and the people seem to be really into it. Well, she kills the power, and he goes down and check the fuse, and she starts yelling at him, "What are you doing? You're embarrassing me." And then he goes upstairs, and they all say, "Come on, dance some more, dance some more." And he goes, "No, no, no more dancing." But she did that a lot in this film. She wasn't real likable. There were scenes where she was likable, and she was also very funny when she was poor, dealing with being poor. That was funny. But the way she treated him, I don't mean to listen. This movie was funny. It really was a funny movie. I found myself laughing quite a bit. But I thought that was kind of she was not a very nice person to him, because he was a great guy. He's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to be honest. And the thing was, when they were pretending to be poor, and they befriended people who were poor, and they're doing everything they can to help them. In fact, there's a scene where he's got to come up with 24,000 rupees, and he sneaks away to go to an ATM to pull the money out, and his friend Cheyenne catches him and says, "You can't steal. You can't steal. You can't do this. This is wrong." And he's trying to, "No, no, it's okay. I figure, no, you can't do this." So he walks away. Now Cheyenne thinks, "I've done a good thing. I kept him from stealing." So to help him get the money, he throws himself in front of a car to get hit. And when the guy freaks out who hit him, He says, if you pay me, I won't say anything. And he gives the money to Raj so he can pay for the application for his daughter to get in. And he's talking to his wife about that. This guy was willing to throw himself in front of a car to help me. So he's feeling really guilty. Well, and this was the absolutely predictable part of the story. I knew exactly what was going to happen. Cheyenne was going to find out that this guy was really rich. And one of the other plot points is Pia gets in, but Cheyenne's kid doesn't get in. So the rich parent's kid took the seat of the poor person's parent because they were lying about being poor. And he figures it out. And he's going to go rat them out. So he goes to the school to tell them that they're rich. And he ends up seeing Pia. And Pia says, Uncle Cheyenne, big hug. So he goes back and Raj and the wife are right there. And he goes, you and I are different. I will not take your daughter out of this school. He said something about poor, but it really was a film about the nobility of, even though you're poor, you can still be noble. And that the rich people who supposedly have everything are the ones that are not the very nice people. Well, Raj comes to that realization in the climax of the film. And this is when, this is the Irrfan Khan that I've seen before. There's this amazing assembly where, and it's another one of the songs, but these kids come out and do this amazing number, and it really is an incredible number in front of this elite school, and the principal in the front row, who, by the way, also found out that they were rich but didn't care. So she's not as noble as she let on to be, and that was a good scene too. Well, he realizes now that this is a business. This isn't about education. Oh, I'm skipping stuff too. When they moved back to the city before Cheyenne figured out who they were, they felt so guilty about it. They donated to a local school in the poor village where they lived for a while, and sponsored all the students, paid for renovations, did all kinds of stuff, because that's also where Cheyenne's kid was going to school. So I skipped that over. So now at this elite school, they do this big production number. And then at the end of it, Raj gets up on stage and does an amazing monologue. And I knew this, as soon as the kids came out. The kids were the kids from the poor school, not from this elite school.
Today God promised,
And he was saying, why shouldn't these kids have the same opportunities that richer kids
because English
do?
is India,
Same
and India is
opportunity for
English.
jobs, same opportunity
Ek
for
France banda,
advancement
German banda
and
speak
education.
wrong English.
What
We no
makes them
problem.
different?
Ek Indian
And it was a
banda
great
say wrong
speech,
English,
and the
banda hi
security
bekar ho
guards come
jata
up
hai
and
ji.
go, and he,
Koi
don't come
value
at
nahi
me,
rehti,
don't come
hopeless
at me. And then, and this is where she kind of has her arc. The audience is stunned by this, right? And he walks out, but when he's about halfway, his wife stands up and starts clapping. She's the only one who's clapping. And the way it ends is, and it was a beautiful ending too. They decide Pia's not going to go to that school. She's going to go to the Bhagat school. Am I saying that right? The Bhagat Nagar school with Cheyenne's kid. Because it's a great school, it'll be a great education, and they show the little girl and the boy on the bus all happy and stuff, and then they show Raj and Mitu, Mita, walking down the road, and it goes on for a little bit, but it was really funny. I mean, the stuff that they were doing in the reactions and their interplay, the husband and wife, were really funny. And he's getting exasperated because, he keeps trying to do the right thing, but it keeps screwing up. And she's all over him. But at the end, she says, I love you and I love who you are. And I hope she turns out just like you. Because the other running gag is he doesn't speak English. She does. So right away, that puts him one notch below her, right? In the society. And the joke is every time she uses a big word, she says, can you spell that? Can you spell that? And he can't. And there's a funny scene where, and it's a little interplay where they have to hire consultants for everything. A consultant to get her into school, a consultant for the way they have to dress, a consultant to write, so that when they write their letters to these schools, and those are all really funny scenes, and they really play it off great. But I thought, the story, the story was a three, and the reason why the story was a three was completely predictable what was going to happen. So that's the only reason why I'm giving it a three. It doesn't mean I didn't like it. The performances, however, I loved the performances. Now he is. It's so sad that he's not here because he really is a very interesting actor. And I what I say about him now in D Day he was a little different. Like there was a couple scenes where he kind of exploded, but I think of he's a very quiet actor, nothing big, and it's really effective. And he was so playful in this film, and I've never seen him quite like that. But when he does that monologue on the stage at the end, that's it's just so good. And I liked her, but I did find her character just wasn't very likable for a big chunk of the film. Now, again, you can say, well, it's a woman who would do anything for her daughter. Okay, I kind of get that, but the way she treated the husband, I was like, ooh, this is tough. You sure about this one? Um, and Cheyenne was really good, um, but it was really, it's the couple that make this film, and I thought they were both wonderful. I gave the performances a four. Now the music, there wasn't a ton. Well, actually, there was. I guess there was a lot of music, but it wasn't typical Bollywood big musical numbers. It wasn't like that. So it didn't. Sometimes those numbers that take you out of the story bother me, but it wasn't like that. The first song they do it opens up, and I don't really know why they did this because I guess they wanted to establish their love for each other, but they show them as young kids. He's working in his father's fashion place that he now owns, and she's coming in looking for sari, I think it was, um, and he's helping her, but he falls in love with her right there, and then they do this song where he's kind of following her around, and like there's one scene where it's raining and she doesn't have an umbrella, and he manages to get an umbrella to her. But that's a cute little scene establishing their love for each other. Because then it cuts right from that to them older, in love. Right? That's the first song. Second song is where Raj was dancing with P at the party. It was a cute number, cute song. Um, the people surrounding them liked it, but the wife was just giving them daggers. But that was cute. Now the third song is this is when they change their look. They want to be, they want to wear elite fashion so they'll fit more in. And she even says when they go, "Wow, you look fantastic," but rich people don't need to look like that. And they're like, "What are we doing? Everything we're doing is wrong." Fourth song, it's surviving in their new life. So there's a little montage of everything they're going through when they're pretending to be poor. And there's a running gag about a rat that when they first got there, they all freaked out, panicked. But then it comes back and they're lying in bed. And she says, the rat's back. And he goes, just let the rat be. Because now they're kind of used to it. So that was cute. Fifth song, this is when they're renovating the school um, in in Bharat Nagar. So there's a song there that the kids actually do. The kids are pounding on drums and stuff. That's a cute song. And then the sixth song is the performance in the auditorium when the kids from the other school are on stage at the elite school, and that's a great number. The kids are great in it, and it's really good. I really enjoyed that number a lot. And I'm gonna, and also the incidental music fit the comedy aspects of this film. It was very light, which I like. So I'm actually going to give the music a four. And all that jazz, my final verdict, I'm going to give this movie a four. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't too long. I think it was 2 hours and 10 minutes, if I remember right. Um, Very funny. I found myself laughing quite a bit. Um, and the message at the end of the film was an important message. And again, I know a little bit about the education structure and the importance of education in India and speaking English. I know just from what I've seen in movies. And this is 2017. Is it still that way? Because I remember Three Idiots, it really caused a stir about what the colleges were doing to the students. And the other one was 12th fail, the exams, the pressure and everything. So I've seen a lot of those films, but is it still like that today? Like, do you have to be able to speak English to advance in India? Is that still a thing, or is it a regional thing in India? I don't know. I'm asking. Now I know people say, "Oh, you got to do more research." Look, I'm just asking the questions because I'm legitimately curious about it. And I know that this movie did really well, and from what I read, unexpectedly, it did really well. But it had something to say, and it did it in a light tone. And again, the other thing, I've already said it once, but it's kind of sad he's not here anymore because I think he's so good. And so I enjoyed this. All that jazz. Thank you very much for that recommendation. Now, I tried to think of a recommendation that I could give. In fact, let me give you my recommendation. So at first, I was going to give a recommendation about a film about schools, but then I started to think about it, and there's actually a very funny film about parenting that came out in 1989, and the film is called Parenthood. Very funny, very a little bit like this. There are really some dramatic moments in a very funny film. But it was directed by Ron Howard. It stars Steve Martin, and this is a great cast. Steve Martin, Mary Steenburgen, Diane Wiest, Jason Robards, Rick Moranis, Tom Hulce, Keanu Reeves, Martha Plimpton, and a very young Phoenix. Um, just a very realistic insight into family life, and you could watch that film and think of your own family and go, "Oh yeah, that's him, that's her. Oh yeah, that's my sister, that's my brother, that's my uncle." You'll do that in this film. And Steve Martin's very funny, and like I said, I'm trying to think of a scene. Well, the only, yeah, one of the funniest scenes in the film is someone tells the wife that if the husband's tense, you should gratify him in a way that will take away his tenseness. And the scene is when they're driving in the car, and she asks, and Mary Steenburgen is a very sweet, like when you see her, you see, oh, it's what a sweet wife. So she says, "Are
I'm
you?"
so
He says, "I'm
tense.
really tense." I'm all. She goes, "Are you tense
You're
now?"
tense right now,
He goes,
honey?
"Yeah, I'm tense."
My back is tense. My
And
neck
then
is
it
tense.
cuts
My
to
ear.
them crashing the car because she attempted to relieve his stress. Very funny. Very, very. You caught me by surprise. So if you have never seen it, especially if you have kids, I don't have any kids. I've got a lot of nieces and nephews. I don't have any kids.
I
But
am
if you have
so
kids, I have big
sorry.
family.
It's all right, honey. It
You'd
wasn't my
probably
fault. You
appreciate
just,
this film. So
just kind
check
of
it
took me
out.
by surprise.
A lot of the exasperation
How'd this happen?
that happened in Hindi medium happens in this film too. All right, well, listen, that's it. I'm actually filming this before New Year's, and I'm hoping that I've hit the 2,500 mark by the time this airs. So fingers crossed. I want to thank you, over 2,500 maniacs. Maybe what I'll do is I'll dub in something if that doesn't happen, but maybe it will. And by the way, if you're watching for the first time, please do me a favor, subscribe, hit the notification button, hit the like button, and really important, share. Because the thing I've read in the analytics is the subscription is going up because you're sharing the videos. So that's how this channel is going to build, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the comments, good, bad, or indifferent. I try to get back to everybody who comments. In fact, somebody said, I'm not I don't mean it this way, but it was almost a little insult. It really wasn't. It was not an insult. They kind of thought it was an insult, but it really wasn't. And I tried to explain myself, and they got back to me and said, I really appreciate you getting back. I'm sorry that it came across that way. I didn't mean it. And I really appreciated that because I want to get, that to me is the best part of this whole thing is the back and forth with you guys. I love that. And I'm going to continue to do it. And if someone has a negative opinion and I can tell you why I felt a certain way, I'll certainly do that. We're not always going to agree, especially with a culture that I know very little about, learning a lot, but I'm trying. All right. Anyway, looking forward to a big 2026. Thanks again for checking this out. We'll talk to you soon on John Talks Indian Cinema with another review, a trailer reaction, or a song reaction. Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks for watching, everyone.